Our politicians and our media lie to us routinely in many different ways. There are outright untruths, distortions, deceptions, and there's also a specific form of lying, which is called lying by omission. You strip out some central facts in order to give your audience a completely false impression of what has actually taken place. And I have to say, nowhere is this more true than when it comes to Israel and its genocide of the Palestinian people and all the issues related to that. Which brings me to the case of a Labour MP whose visit to a school was cancelled and we're told he was banned. Now, this case first emerged because Steve Reid, who is Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, is a cabinet minister in the Labour government, said the following at a conference. I have a colleague who is Jewish who has been banned from visiting a school and refused permission to visit a school in his own constituency in case his presence inflames the teachers. That is an absolute outrage. He added, they will be called in and they will be held to account for doing that because you cannot have people with those kinds of attitude teaching our children. Sounds outrageous, doesn't it? If a member of parliament is banned from visiting a school because they are Jewish, that is outright anti-Semitism and genuinely scandalous. What exactly is going on then? Well, if you turn to the Daily Telegraph for honest reporting of news events, then my deepest consolations. But they claim to have the story of what had happened here. Their shocking headline is Jewish MP banned from school after pro-Palestine campaign. It goes on, a Jewish MP was banned from visiting a school after a campaign by pro-Palestine activists. Damien Egan, the Labour MP for Bristol North East, had planned to visit Bristol Brunel Academy in September. However, the visit was cancelled after the Bristol branch of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign intervened, reportedly helped by left-wing members of the National Education Union, the NEU. It quotes Steve Reid and then a Facebook post by the Bristol branch of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, which describes Mr. Egan's ban as a win for safeguarding, as it puts it. This is just reading the Telegraph, and the power of union representatives, parents, and campaigners standing together. They go on to quote them, victory for parents, teachers and the community. The planned school visit today, Friday, September the 5th, by Damien Egan, MP for Bristol North East, has been cancelled after concerns were raised by the NEU, trade union, staff group, parents and local constituents. This is a clear message. Politicians who openly support Israel's genocidal onslaught, assault on Gaza are not welcome in our schools. It then quotes Bristol Brunel Academy saying they decided to postpone Egan's visit because they'd been made aware of a planned public protest outside the school and that they'd arranged another day. The article goes on to refer to the Tory Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, warning of threats to free speech in school riots over alleged insults to Islam, claiming police officers were surrendering to Islamists. So they're introducing there, the Telegraph, the spectre of Muslims. That's what they're doing. Well, it all sounds bad though, doesn't it, superficially? Was a Labour MP banned just because they were Jewish? Was that conflated with support for Israel? And you can see the Telegraph's delight here going after some of its particularly despised targets, left-wingers, trade unionists, school teachers, Muslims. The paper's become ever more extreme. It's a cultural rag which whips up division intentionally in our society, as far as I'm concerned. What minor, teeny-weeny little detail might this newspaper and that Labour cabinet minister have omitted? The Telegraph quoted the Bristol Palestine Solidarity Campaign post. It said, this is a clear message. Politicians who openly support Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza are not welcome in our schools. What next sentence did they miss out? Let me read it out to you. Egan is vice chair of Labour Friends of Israel and has visited Israel since the current onslaught on Gaza began, demonstrating his support. Well. Just a minor, tiny little detail there then. What the Telegraph has done is completely erase the central fact of the whole story, which is that, quite unsurprisingly, the Bristol Palestine Solidarity Campaign objected to the vice chair of Labour Friends of Israel visiting the school, and local teachers also shared those objections. Let me just state some basic, incontrovertible facts. The International Criminal Court, of which Britain is a founding member, issued arrest warrants over a year ago against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant, charging them with war crimes and crimes against humanity. A consensus of genocide scholars, including Israeli genocide scholars, has concluded that Israel has committed genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza. That also includes an independent commission of the United Nations. It includes Western governments like Spain and Ireland. It includes NGOs like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Médecins Sans Frontières. It includes Israeli NGOs like B'Tselem. Israel has wiped Gaza from the face of the earth, including civilian infrastructure ranging from schools to libraries to mosques to universities, including, of course, most people's homes. It has, according to detailed academic studies, violently slaughtered well over 100,000 people. That is excluding indirect deaths, incidentally. Proportionally speaking, the biggest percentage of a population killed this century. It has sought to wipe out Gaza's healthcare system, destroyed hospitals, and killed over 1,600 medics. It has wiped entire extended families from the face of the earth. It has killed tens of thousands of children. It has deliberately starved the Palestinian people. It has massacred around 2,000 unarmed Palestinians specifically as they were seeking aid for their desperate families. It has kidnapped and disappeared civilians en masse and then subjected them to unspeakable torture, including rape, including torturing and raping detainees to death. Its leaders have justified their barbarism with outright genocidal language. I could go on. I really could, because the monstrous crimes committed by the Israeli state with the support of Western governments, including Britain, are endless. As I keep saying, no crime in history has been so documented as it happened, and no crime in history has been so confessed to as it happened. And I shouldn't need to keep saying any of this, because there should be a consensus that Israel has committed the most repugnant crimes imaginable, and those who have acted as apologists for that state should be treated as pariahs. It's like being a member of Labour Friends of South Africa during apartheid, except it's even worse because it is not belittling the crimes of apartheid South Africa, abhorrent as they were on their own terms, to point out that Israel's crimes are much worse. Imagine a Labour MP was vice chair of Labour Friends of Bosnian Serbs after the 1995 Srebrenica massacre, and then a group called the Bosnian Solidarity Campaign called for their visit to a school to be cancelled, and local teachers backed it. Would that be seen as outrageous, yes or no? And you know what the answer is. It is no. Who are Labour Friends of Israel? What's their record? Back in 2024, they organised what they called a solidarity mission to Israel, adding, "Today, we met Israeli President Isaac Herzog to express our support for Israel and her people in the aftermath of October 7th. We stand with you," ending with an Israeli and a British flag together. And then pictured is a group of Labour MPs standing next to Isaac Herzog. Who is Isaac Herzog? He's the president of Israel who said at the beginning of the genocide, it's an entire nation out there that is responsible. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved, it's not true. They could have risen up, fought against that evil regime. That was genocidal incitement, shamelessly promoting collective guilt, thus collective punishment, and indeed Israeli soldiers repeatedly filmed themselves parroting his rhetoric as they went on their genocidal rampage in Gaza. Now, Labour Friends of Israel have even opposed the pathetic, timid moves by this government to respond to pressure over their complicity in genocide. Labour Friends of Israel denounced the British government for withdrawing its objection to the International Criminal Court's war crimes and crimes against humanity charges against Israeli leaders, describing the case as morally suspect and legally dubious. They opposed the government's partial suspension of arms export licenses to Israel. They issued a statement in which they declared, "We strongly disagree with the decision to recognize a Palestinian state at this point." Labour Friends of Israel is a lobbying organisation complicit in genocide. Portraying opposition to a visit by the vice chair of this lobbying organisation as being driven by anti-Semitism is utterly disgusting. It is shameful to stoke fears amongst Jewish people on utterly false grounds like this. This newspaper coverage is racist. Actually, there is racism here, and it's racism against Palestinians. Because the objection here is to people who treat Palestinians as being human beings with lives of equal worth, to treating those people as being hateful extremists. If the Telegraph saw Palestinians as being human beings with lives of equal worth, they would not object to people opposing a school visit by the vice chair of an organisation lobbying in favour of the interests of the state which has committed genocide against those Palestinians. Yet now there's a pile-on against the school and its teachers. You can hear what Steve Reed, the cabinet minister, said. He's menacing the teachers involved. On what basis? A false basis. He's suggesting it's because the MP was Jewish, and that therefore these teachers are a menace to the children they're teaching. And this is all blowing up. Deborah Lipstadt has waded in, tweeting, "Jewish MP from a school." I think she meant to write banned there because she's quote tweeting someone who says that they're banned. "Because he is Jewish. This is all part of a trend. Make it toxic to openly identify as Jew, unless you're willing to denounce your fellow Jews." A total false misrepresentation of what has happened. Michael Rosen, who is a British Jewish author of children's books who opposes Israel's genocide, like so many Jewish people do, tweeted in response, "For your information, I've not only been banned from a Jewish school, I've been cancelled from a Jewish community centre and a Jewish charity event commemorating kinder transport. People have campaigned to get me banned from, for example, the Anne Frank Trust, Show Racism the Red Card, Jewish Book Greek, Radio 4. He's talking there because he's a Jewish person who opposes Israel's genocide. He keeps having these attempts to cancel him. The pro-Israel activist Heidi Backram has tweeted, "This discrimination cannot be normalised. The teacher should be, in capitals, fired." Discrimination is who exactly? The vice chairs of organisations lobbying on behalf of genocidal states? I'm sorry to have to break this to you, but that is not a protected characteristic under British equalities law. We need to defend these teachers because there was going to be a coordinated attempt, clearly, to sack them, to fire them, because they objected to the vice chair of Labour Friends of Israel, who have a record of opposing even the most timid attempts to hold Israel to account for what it has done. This constant attempt to strip anti-Semitism of its meaning is so dangerous, so irresponsible. Anti-Semitism is very real and it is a menace. And if people stop believing that anti-Semitism exists because the term is abused like this in order to shut down opposition to Israel's monstrous cries, it puts the safety of Jewish people at risk. The truth is, our politicians and our media lie and lie and lie again when it comes to Israel and Palestine. And why do they keep lying to us? Because they know that when it comes to Israel and its genocide, the truth only damns them. The only reason they've got away with it so far is by turning the world on its head and through a campaign of fear and intimidation, threatening anyone who speaks out against the genocide with being deplatformed, cancelled, arrested, beaten up by police officers on demonstrations, imprisoned, deported. But I'll tell you this, if you have to rely on lies and fear, then in the end, you're going to lose. And I promise you this, you are going to lose. Please like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts and your comments. Help us take on this disgraceful media. Disgraceful media. Patreon.com/OwenJones84. You make all of this possible. We will keep constantly holding to account our media and our political elite. And when I finish my book, The Fall of the West, which will be soon, then there'll be much more of that. So share the video, leave your thoughts and comments, as I said, press like, subscribe. I'll speak to you in a bit.